Everybody get up, it's time to slam now.
Come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. Come on and slam, if you wanna jam.
PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Prone to serious depression, pain that seldom dwindles, processing the same day, plaguing the soul, drowning, playing the sounds daily. Poor time seem definite, pessimism that seems deadly, perpetually torturous, strikingly demonic, passion terminated, seemingly destitute. Pouring tears streaming down, perusing the sorrowful darkness, photographic, the static dimension, pass through Satan's doorway, past the sour diesel, prescribed 37 drugs. Pilsner, tequila, sangria, diazepam. Parched, taste sullied, dry, pariah to society, derelict, prone to steady decline, praying that screams dissipate, prone to suicide, damned, primordial threat, safety diminished, peace threatened, seemingly dead, passion tranquilized, sudden demise, past the summit, dropping, plummeting, the soul deadens, praying that solitude dissolves. Before attempting to write, I envisioned typing with my right hand and holding a bottle of Xanax with the left. I wanted to see if the collisions of pills within this marmalade bottle could provide the backbeat to a backdrop of dim lights and rodents, and whether I'd be that beatnik in a state of panic who could write through the rattling of these tablets against this plastic, or the bongos reverberating relentlessly, and the acoustically gifted parts of my brain as uncertain when I just need to get some sleep. I've been in positions where my first instinct was not to write while holding a controlled substance like a baby on mother's nipple. The first trauma an infant experiences is the disconnection of the umbilical cord after being welcomed into the world, and whether my solar plexus healed is one thing. But have benzos been my milk this whole time? On the X10 crossing the Verrazano, I saw a sign that said life is worth living. Underneath it was the phone number for LifeNet, the suicide prevention hotline provided by New York City at the time. Scenery changes to underground where subway trains are electrified by the grid, where the edges of platforms need that same sign. I could have been a statistic. I could have hung upon the yellow circle with the black R like fuzzy dice, gambling with my life as if the train was a solitary bullet in the game of Russian roulette. Subway casualties would be denoted in surveys exposing blankets of trauma by both jumpers and strap hangers, and many ignore that corny credo entering the hearts and minds of those wanting to transition between earth and ether. Now consider the Emerald Tablet, the doctrine of Hermetic alchemy. That which is above is like that which is below, and that which is below is like that which is above. Heaven and hell, bridges and tunnels, Eros and Thanatos, the blessed and the damned. A will to die is always greeted with an easy and accessible method, and a will to live comes with the complexity derived from avoiding said method. I think of Tennessee Williams's play The Glass Menagerie, remembering how Tom Wingfield was terminated for splaying stanzas on shoeboxes, and I must follow suit in my quest to avoid fatality after 40 seconds pass and another suicide commences. The movies will maneuver my mind to manifest melodies. The moon will motivate my messages. Amid the cranial chaos, I need to be that selfish dreamer. I need to dance with El Diablo in the catacombs of opium dens in Gehenna. But then my family enters the forefront. The entropy expires, and the dead don't seem so lucky. But with the truth of certainty, and the certainty of truth, the sign that you should live should be in every place one chooses to die.
I was baptized in red dirt, Wallen's God's country, Tulsa race riots, locally raised lunch meat, sardine schools where black gold rules, to put it bluntly, corrupted scriptures funneled to an underfunded sundry. I fell off the beaten path, from Park Ave to park benches, halfway houses surrounded by white fences, cashed wellness checks afforded by white privilege, a slap on slit wrists for my capital offenses. On this borrowed time, the shorthand clicks faster. My sex sells for 6 cents to slick bastards. Peddled sins pawned off to one-note stanzas. Pick a line, phone the next morning. I won't answer. Samantha, my anthem. I remember every second. When we met, I was a wreck and regretful and hardly sober, but so were you. Over Mario Kart and cigarettes, we exchanged sympathies. My first friend in recovery. Company loves misery. 3 months, 2 relapses, and 1 fateful 4 a.m. FaceTime after our love died of unnatural causes. I mourned you. The morning you painted those hotel room sheets reeking of cheap perfume and hard liquor. What's sicker is I was too high to talk to the police. What a relief I was staying at my parents'. Apparently, they cared more about my manic temperament than the temperature of your room and whether your blood might or might not clot. My heart rate stopped when the call dropped and the goddamn pigs couldn't pinpoint your location. What motivation had you for calling me, if not to halt you? I don't fault you or view you as a cancer for using me as a lifeline, but you should know I can't serve as your savior. I'm still unable to shake the guilt I feel so viscerally, it labels me criminal. I surrender to serenity, exhale my iniquities, and gently close my eyelids. Focus on my breathing because I'm terrified of silence. My speed dial has 1 number fewer now. I still play Mario Kart. I no longer smoke cigarettes.
My doctor says we mustn't let depression stay beckoning from my bed. Shouldn't slip into somnolent complacency and let her dream my days away. He always asks me if I feel better from the last time we did this. A quick survey of the disposition of thousands of variables, and I'm just going to say what comes into my head. He'll nod because he really does care and ask if I have the same pharmacy. New pills come marching in to join the old in my daily dose, while my side effects are twirling round on their broken axes, drugs doing the damage instead of the storm. Sometimes we have to submit to brutality to be healed and brutalize ourselves in the process. Some days she sits on my shoulder, whispering her dark interpretations, dire implications, unholy expectations, echoing walls that never stayed the same for long, and childhood beds that were never home. My friend points at her perch from time to time and asks me if it's empty. I'll nod because I don't want him to worry. But she giggles when I lie. Lying beside me later, eyes locked like lovers, fingers interlaced, she sings her lullaby, a siren song for a man who never sails, some nobody spitting loneliness, slipping away on the underside of the sheep I keep counting in between these verses. I dreamt my doctor flew me out over mountain lakes, passing between peaks, swooping low, and suddenly swerving, we plummeted towards the water. Final thoughts flashed, but the crash didn't come. And I woke amongst the debris of a day that hasn't even started yet.
I walked through a season of softness, sense, and romance. Green banana peel, lime blossoms, and wormwood smells pervade the atmosphere. Skin like musk and zesty citrus are carried with grace upon the breeze. Kowalski favors the molecular elegance that creates lift without volume. Florals crash slightly, but is not romanticized, just present with sophistication and dignity, like my lover's dress and smiles of cinnamon brown. Bloomingdale's perfumes, the Marley, is truly for lovers. Soft, sensual, its fruity top notes lending itself to a heart of love, embellished by a creamy vanilla dry, making it a flawless choice for that magical allure and sought after compliments on romantic walks or chandelier conversations. I love the Yves Saint Laurent marshmallow musk, but Prada Milano's is my favorite and my signature scent. It is very feminine, sexy, and deep. The floral notes are great for the daytime, with the base notes superb for evening wear. This is a go-to date night perfume and necessary for connoisseurs. It is spring, and tulips and daffodils talk to me joyfully about resurgence. I walk through Battersea Park, where white magnolias unfold to greet me at the West Gate, and young Japanese women watch bewitching cherry blossoms on the east. I watch the pink ones blooming, trees standing like sentinels, ascending above verdant green paths and shimmering lights, gorgeous in beauty and finesse par excellence. Poppies, lilies, rhododendrons, and orchids become a brocade of immaculate pageantry to nature lovers. Their gorgeous aroma, accompanied by the wafts of purple lavenders and the redolence of jasmines, are truly soul-nourishing, and my heart soaks in a canopy of floral lava, shedding tears in its delight. A flower's life cycle is intricate, as each phase brims with vibrant energy and purpose. Roots develop, stems grow, leaves form, pollination and petals flourish, before finally manifesting the breathtaking moment when she opens her delicate petals to the world, displaying the exquisite grandeur of Mother Nature, the lava of a higher purpose. The rose is a symbol of charm, fragrance, sacrifice, and flowers are radiant, fresh, and remedial to souls. Lantern recognizes that they bring beauty, light, that flowers are both healers and inspirators. They illumine the spirit, teaching us that even with differences and diversity, it is possible to live in harmony with each other, offering unique individual contributions to the cosmos, to love.
When you are raised in the church, they say, if you spare the rod, you will spoil the child. My foster mother said, go outside and pick a switch. My cousin said, don't get it too thin. And whatever you do, don't get it too thick. Imagine having to Goldilocks your pain, bargaining with branches, beat me beautiful. I was not a bad child, just a battered one, given too much to cry for. When the switch was not enough, I would kneel on rice, hands stretched out like crucifixion, balancing Bibles and behavior. And the church said, spare the rod, spoil the child. And I would not be spoiled. We'll be fresh meat ripe for the slaughter. And the Bible, children are always good for the sacrifice. Except here, there is no burning bush to save me. I have plucked it clean of its serrated switches. The fire is only in their eyes. The only difference between a bad child and a slave is the beating is not public. There is no one else to scare but the child. Everything that happens in the house stays there, even the prayers. So when the child asks for help, the church says, honor thy father and thy mother. Even when you've picked the family trees bare of switches, even when you can trace the bloodlines and the marks on your back, even when your hands are duct taped together in prayer and the prayer is asking why. And the church says, spoiled children are the worst to come of this. How they manipulate the word in their favor, how they make altar a broken child, broken promise, and broken spirit, yet claim the church stable, call it foundational, built with all the bloody rods left over from the not sparing and the not sparring and the not spoiling, just the misinterpretation of scripture, twisted into secrets between the pews, with stained glass children in the windows who grow up to abandon faith. And the church says, my child, why have you forsaken me?
There are some nights it's hard to sleep. The cage dog that is my creativity won't stop barking up my tree, yelping for freedom at 3 o'clock in the morning. No matter how many cans I throw out the window, that junkyard dog guarding a land full of dreams won't let me be like a bitch in heat, gnawing at my ankles for attention. But the laundry wrestles my desires into submission, and the dishes block the doorway to my escape. The floors are begging to be swept and mopped. The mouths are open and need to be fed. Grief is a rock in the back of my throat my body won't swallow. And by this time, my creativity is left howling at the moon in my soul, reminding me that I have a calling, but I don't have hands free to answer any calls or open any doors. Because the laundry makes monsters of mundane matters. The dishes turn to rivers of scrap and silverware. The floors are desperate for a mop or a broom. The mouths constantly need feeding. Grief is a brick in my stomach my body refuses to digest. And by nightfall, the howling becomes tinnitus, a pack of wild dogs barking in a frenzy, trying to find their way out. The pen is no place to house a pack of wolves, like the body is no place to store a gift. The human body has no weapons, no armor, and is easily broken. But a gift is the difference between a field of dreams and a cemetery. It's a struggle trying to find acres in these hands for space to run, a place to fly, where ideas don't go to die. I know the world needs what I keep inside, but the longer I cage these dreams, the more they sound like a pack of feral hounds constantly ringing my ears for a person I should have become, and all I want to do is make it stop.
So the question comes to mind, when did I lose the calling? I think it happened when I was making my first Holy Communion. I sat, hands folded in church with many other crispy white lace dress hopefuls. We were all contestants for the little brides of Christ, all set to be married at the tender age of 8. Get them while they're young, the church says. Train a child in the way he should go, and they will never depart from it. That is biblical, although I didn't realize it at the time. Anyway, the nuns were in charge of this group. Who better? The group was large, from at least 3 other churches. I spotted my cousin, who I rarely saw away from this place. Something inside me got so excited to see her that I could not keep quiet. I was a child excited to see someone who meant something to me. Why was this such a travesty? Why was it forbidden to speak in church? Nevertheless, I was spotted. My invisibility became visible to all, to everyone. My safety was exposed for all to see, to remember or to forget for the rest of their lives. I did forget this until recently, when my mind regained its clarity after years of alcohol abuse. At that moment, I was called out of my seat to the front of the church to be made an example of. Who dared speak when not spoken to in church? The pounding of the nuns' hands beating me unmercifully in front of all my peers, family, and friends must have been just as hard to watch as it was to experience. The hot, streaming tears evaporated immediately off my beet red face, with me screaming for her to stop and crying out in the phrase, "I have to go to the bathroom." Regardless, there was no stopping her, because after all, the point must be made. After a short while, which seemed like hours, the floodgates let loose. The hot streams of urine rushed out all over me and the floor. The other nuns involved by not being involved in that spectacle asked her to stop. They took me away to the principal's office where I cried uncontrollably the entire time I was there. They said that they called my grandmother to come and bring me a pair of underwear. I could not regain my composure. I was asked to go clean up the mess I made in the church. I remember going there with paper towels, and amidst the gasps and sobs, I attempted to wipe up my embarrassment and humiliation off the floor. Again, hard for all to watch. And I was once again reminded of what it meant to be married to God.
Life is the ultimate simulation video game our parents pre-order without us reading its contents. The minority in the United States pre-ordered DLC sucks. I personally would like a refund, but there are no refunds issued when life is set on survival mode. And that is what you do. Survive. By any means necessary. Survive through trial and error. Learn what it is to thrive in the seemingly never-ending cycle. Even if the results are not desirable at first, survive. As much as you try to survive and be the best version of yourself as possible, there are always going to be those who view you as public enemy number one. There are always going to be those who refuse to look into the mirror, who deflect and overlook their own flaws and paint them on your own canvas, making you look like some kind of jackass. There are always going to be those who instantly forget all the good you put out and then villainize you and morally sentence you without trial at the first given opportunity, shining a big spotlight on a fallacy that the light's intensity has blinded them. There will be people who blindly purchase lies without reading the price tag nor the package contents, proceeding to make a mess regardless. Forgiveness is the first step towards salvation. Forgive them, for they do not know any better. Their instinct is to jump to conclusions, shoot first, then don't ask questions, passing judgment like kidney stones, pissing out processed pain like processed food. Research and investigation is not valued here. Nobody pitches any no-hitters or perfect games on this field. It is impossible to go throughout life without making mistakes. However, nobody should be casting any stones, for we are all sins looking for holiness. Nobody's candles shine brighter if they blow out another's. May the silence of their hypocrisy scream and echo in eternity. May the welts from their pelting reduce in swelling over time. May the scars from the wounds depict a story of survival. Survive and thrive out of spite. Control your narrative. It's the only one you get.
There's a quote that says, if you're not fed love off of a silver spoon, you will learn to lick it from knives. So I can't write about love. It's a mystery to me. I've licked the knives so hard, and love is still elusive to me. I've searched for it in the eyes of those who promised forever, but all I found was betrayal, and love, it was never. I've tried to write about passion, of hearts intertwined as one, but all I've known is heartache and of my love that came undone. I've seen the beauty of love in movies, books, and songs, but all I feel is emptiness and that love doesn't belong. I've yearned for love so sweet, like honey on my lips, but all I've tasted is bitterness and a love that slipped through my grip. So forgive me if I can't put words together so pure, because love has been a battlefield that I just can't endure. I've tried to understand what love truly means, but all I have encountered is a broken heart and dreams. I can keep on writing about pain and of things I understand, but love remains a mystery that my mind can't withstand. Maybe one day I'll find the love I've been searching for, but until then, I'll keep on writing of the things that hurt and more. I can't write about love, not yet at least, because it's a concept so foreign and a heart that's been long deceased.
Improper ideology requires no apology. Say it once again for me. Revising history for the moneyed class has the intrinsic value of digestive gas. Why, as they would have it, if certain realities never came to pass, is to define an ideology which in retrospect seems more like the dusty antique theology. Sure, if you were to mistakenly say that women always had to vote, scratch that guy, he might be trouble. Please take note. And single women could always float alone, order a phone, buy a home. Hey, wait a sec. Why was she alone? Has she left her man borrowing his charger card when he's out of hand? Why, that's so revisionist. I heard an important man say, no, no, not this. No, women were executives. What were you thinking? None were ever pilots up in the clouds. That's just stinking. Slavery was just full employment, a government plan. Even the smallest toddler could enjoy slavery as long as he could stand. And when they sold your ma and pa, waiting, debating that you might find yourself left waiting lonely in some saloon or bar, till some generous man picked up your tab. They're such a musical people with such a gift of gab. Science was always and only advanced by men. You always heard it right. Let's say it together once again. Such men would never take advantage of a female lab partner's friends. These men would never claim unearned scientific achievement. They'd sooner suffer their own embarrassing and deeply shamed bereavement. And schools for blacks were never poorly funded. Anyone saying that is clearly politically blundered. And even to suggest that polluted places seem somehow accidentally to be located near the darker races. And this is only said simply to malign the ruling class. And frankly, if by now you don't know it, you can kiss my pass card. En garde, this too shall pass. And those protecting watersheds has never needed these claims exceeded by the troubling aboriginals. And it's never been true. We lock their children in steeples to even think so. We've been imperfect is truly creeple. Let me cheer you with a soulful glance. Look right here in my hypnotic electronic eye. Wouldn't I? Improper ideology, never so regardless of how clever or misleading, requires an apology. Honoring great men and women of science who coincidentally are rich in darker skin seems a far vaster sin. I guess we should never cause a mortal member of the consuming class the least distress. But ruling class men such as these, often nearly consumed by greed, seem somehow only to elevate those with pale, pink, albeit pigeon toes. Well, that's just how it goes.
This poem is not about trauma. It's not about what it takes to keep going after the impact in those first few moments of everything's changed. No, this poem is not about trauma. It's not about walking down hospital hallways that look like hallways where hearts are beating. Sorry, hearts are breaking. No, this poem is not about trauma. It's not about having to count numbers out loud to hold back the panic when you're lying in the machine. No, this poem is not about trauma. It's not about getting that phone call from a stranger with the worst possible news. No, this poem is not about trauma. It's not about getting sick and knowing that's it, having to say goodbye, having to hear it. No, this poem is not about trauma. It's not about parents who abandon their children because sometimes biological imperatives don't work. No, this poem is not about trauma. It's not about the ripping or the tearing or the hurt, not the crying or the dying or the dirt, not shaking or quaking or lying or loss. No, this poem is not about trauma. It's not about the time your brother sat outside of his school building waiting to be picked up by his dad who isn't coming ever again. And he cannot understand to this day why his dad didn't come for him that day or any day. No, this poem is not about trauma. Not about needles or exit bags or exit wounds or scars or pissing blood. No. This poem is about healing. It's about still being here. It's about getting through it, about survival, about standing back up when the trauma poems are the best we can do.
You came suddenly, tap dancing on our emotions, singing a psalm of solace within and instilling tranquility. You brought the soft drizzle, kissing our hearts with delight. I recall the first time that we felt you within a hush and stillness, that Caribbean moan, Salome's silk-woven negligee, waltzing to a rhythmical tempo. You brought a light zephyr, cooling the heat and caressing our spirit. She, feeling safe as we hugged, you, the rain, soothing her petite velvety ebony figure in the sweet hush of an affectionate embrace. Now, along a long winding path, Mother Gaia massages my feet as I walk, my mind, heart, and soul calmly blending into a serenity of vast and profound solitude. Chirping in symphonies, songbirds jump from branch to branch. Along the edges, thick ferns and flora pay homage at my feet. The lushness of white daisies and verdant green trees and foliage stand tall in majesty, saluting a breath moving in harmony to the reverential dance of Gaia's silence. White clouds peep through a translucent sky as I gaze. I become inebriated, drunk with the wine of nature's charm and beauty, her mystic blessings in this reverential moment of being. Today, after the rainfall, I walk past the magenta rose-pink colors and cinnamon leaves now stewing along the edges. The sun's rays shimmer through the trees and onto a clay-colored earth. I feel a whispered silence as I gaze at the tall, shaded trees, a panorama of branches as lush as sunset crests. It is fall, and I invoke my lover, her innocent charm and reticent smile, her demure and mellifluous lips, her golden heart blending with the light winds of this pure seasonal melody, cleansing away carnality, taking us into the sacrament of this present moment to make us whole once more.
The house that Joy built was a dilapidated shack with dusty floors and one bedroom. All the cousins shared, or a government-subsidized high-rise with pissy project hallways, with dope boys playing security. You can't enter unless they know where your mama stay, who your daddy is, but when you pass the threshold, it feels like a warm hug. And maybe it was never a place at all. Maybe Joy built a home inside your mother's arms, and she became an abandoned building or a church, depending on her sobriety. So yes, my mother was an empty cathedral with addiction at her altar, and I sat in her pews singing hymnals as if she could do no wrong. But after her demolition, I only chose to remember the good times. The nights the doors closed around my back and gave me sanctuary. All the time the dope boys handed me a basketball and forced me away. Said they'd rather me shoot bricks than build a home in a crack house, and somehow it still makes me smile. Joy is the reason hindsight has great vision, engineering a better reality through rose-colored lenses, made in the shade of all the flowers that grew from the concrete, landscaping the buildings she built.
When I was in third grade, approximately 8 years old, I was mandatorily required to attend church every day, except Saturday. Children, as the rule of the day, were to be seen and not heard. I could not voice my displeasure or risk getting a beating with the belt for backtalking. Punishment was corporal. DCP&P did nothing back then. If I dare buck the system, having independent thoughts were always risky and never fully understood by my elders. As I grew, I learned about the holy order and thought perhaps that if I was good enough, that God would take me in, save me from my sin and the rest of the world, which seemed so corrupted to me at the time. I tried to be good. I did everything the nuns told me. I prayed hard. I meditated on God's creation, but not his word, because that was only for the highly educated priest who had the calling and could interpret all the symbolic and secret languages penned by the saints of God. I asked myself the question, could I be a saint? My family said no way. Why was that idea so far out there? Weren't the priests and nuns at one time someone's sons or daughters? Were they not human or transformed into something greater? I would not give up my quest. I wore the scapulet, it was blessed. I was instructed if I never took it off that I would automatically go to heaven. I told my mom when she asked why I would never take it off, but she seemed to be annoyed by my answer. My mom had a general annoyance with all things associated with the church at the time. She, for one, did not believe that we had to attend Catholic school. I remember my parents disagreeing about many things back then, before the divorce. However, I knew I had the calling and no one was going to tell me otherwise. When I mentioned this to the Holy Order, they did not take it seriously. When I mentioned it to my mother, she just laughed and said, "No woman in this family could ever be a nun." She said I would not understand this until I was older.
I seen a quote that said, she overthinks because she was underloved. And my mind is a tangled mess of doubts and fears. My heart, once full of hope, now guarded like a fort, afraid to let anyone in for fear of being hurt. I long for love and comfort, but I push it away, scared of being vulnerable and being betrayed. I struggle to let go of the pain that grips me like a vice. I question every word, every gesture, every smile, searching for hidden meanings in every glance and smirk. I overanalyze every action, afraid of being deceived, my trust broken one too many times, so I build walls around my heart to protect it from further harm. And that's how I cope with the scars of my past. I overthink. I let my fears hold me back. I cheat myself out of ever finding true love, yet deep down inside, I yearn for someone to disarm me, to break through the barriers I put up to heal the wounds of my past, for someone to see through the facade and mask that I have created, to just see the real me and love me anyways. I need more than just words, more than empty promises. I need someone who truly understands that words are empty and action speaks volumes when they are unspoken. I need someone who will catch me when I fall, who will walk by my side, who will hold my hand when I feel weak, someone who will lift my head when I feel defeated. I need someone who can see my soul, to take the broken pieces and put them back together, though they were not the ones who broke me. I just need to be seen, heard, and loved unconditionally. That is what I crave. That is all I seek, to be overloved. So I no longer am forced to overthink.
I no longer want to be the bull in my china shop. I've stepped on enough glass to learn my lesson. Tired of seeing red on the bottoms of my feet. I have trouble writing love poems. It's not that I don't know love. I'm surrounded by love, oftentimes smothered by it. Not like pillows over heads or elevators too full, like pork chops and gravy or steak and onions. My appetite for love is always overflowing. In the way there's always a child wrapped around my leg or a baby entangled in my arms. In the bedroom where the magic happens, he sinks his chin into my breast, arms around my chest, his mind cradled by sleep. A toddler creeps in amidst the darkness, searching for solace between sheets. And she brings elbows and knees and kicking and hogging, and I know this doesn't sound much like love. But what do you call it when a child finds safety in your arms and a baby finds rest on your chest? Time's favorite things to wear is noise. From the time we wake up until the time we go to bed, there is always off-key pianos, too close to the microphone singing, crying, fighting, booming, banging, and one of my personal favorites, hugging. Laughter bellows through the rooms of my home, singing like a Sunday church bell. The seams of my walls burst with happiness. It's not always peaceful. Sometimes the rainy season in the mind tries to wash out these moments like sandcastles, and love begins to look like overstimulation, postpartum depression, not wanting to be touched, forgetting who you are, rage. And my rage becomes a bull in this mental china shop. But these fingers and this pen don't know anything but love. And when they make love, the pages in my book clutch their spine a bit harder, brace for impact for these love child syllables leaking out of this pen, this hopeless romantic. I love in images of this bastard tongue. It's my love language, like the breathing of heartbeats from my body or my baby's imagination. So I have trouble writing love poems, not because I don't know love, but love doesn't always come in peace.
Life is like professional wrestling. You may start off with a shine, but life has a way of cutting you off, pouring the heat on you while you try to fire back up, constantly in a seesaw battle of spiritual momentum. Life is the greatest act of improv we know. It feels like a put on act everywhere I go. After 12 years of wrestling in front of crowds, I've become an expert on working the crowd. My happy disposition is a false advertisement. I may look like I am made of oak, but inside I am a swamp shrouded by weeping willows. With every breath I take, I exhale an apocalypse. I may look like someone who has their shit together, but heaven knows I am miserable now. If I had a dime for every time I put my heart on the line and come up empty-handed, I would have a whole bunch of dimes, enough dimes to furnish a mansion with. When it comes to falling short, I stand tall, dwarfing giants. Put me on a textbook. A whole new generation can learn how to prevent themselves from making the same mistakes that made me the clown prince of childhood and adulthood through mass distribution to every elementary school. Let me teach you how to bleed. Do I have your attention now? Isn't that noble, America? I'm surprised my wallet hasn't pulled out a Glock on me and turned off the safety lock or bitch slapped me smart to stop me from making any more mistakes because I cannot afford to make any more. There's so much more to life that I haven't experienced yet. So many chapters to be written, so many memories to be had. Therefore, I'm compelled to endure the gauntlet and see what kind of mutation I become. If you're looking to get any advice from me, please don't, unless you're into spiritual sadism. Don't worry, I don't kink shame. I can relate. On second thought, maybe I could teach y'all a thing or two on how it's like to shut off your emotions after self-inflicted wounds to the spirit, what to do when your heart has been through enough malice that it makes you emotionally calloused, and most importantly, what to do and what not to do when coping with unrequited feelings and how to properly dispose them. You would learn a lot from me. So much, perhaps, that I could be professor, the PhD in emotional catastrophe. I can tour the world and give TED Talks, getting rave reviews and from audiences worldwide, establish enough income to seclude myself from society in record time, as if I was having a Kickstarter for loneliness. That's the spirit. Exploit pain into profit, just like professional wrestling. Damn. Anyways, if this money-making scheme works, I don't have to spend 10 years working a nonprofit job to erase my student loan debt. I just got to figure out a way to relay my hurt into healing and make it rain from a world of pain. Call me Rainmaker of Wisdom. I've laughed so hard in the face of adversity. I puked my brains out in the style of a college jock fuckboy who couldn't handle their drink. I've done the gritty through the baptism of fire and did the worm with floors covered in the shattered glass of my broken dreams, loving every millisecond of the pain because it reminds me if I can bleed, I can feel. And if I can feel, I can heal. I have spat in the face of God while punching Satan in his stupid face and kicking Wolfman in the nards. I didn't go through the limbo line at Hell's Gate for fun. I came for the experience to remind me that to no good, I got to go through a whole lot of bad, apparently, thinking that at the end, I would be gracious for the brief commercial breaks from life's dull programming that I wish I could simply unsubscribe from. All this pain and trauma clearly affected more than my memory, perhaps the ability to read vibes because I'm illiterate as fuck and can't afford the higher education, perhaps the ability to feel pain and mistaking it for pleasure. I got a Timex mindset that goes harder than a diamond mine. It is the only way I know how to survive under any means necessary. Power to the people and power to the feeble. Somehow, Some way, I'll overcome whatever pain that comes my way. I guess the point of all this is a way to simply convey that this is not a cry for help. I don't want any pity, only harsh reality I need to embrace in the fashion of a mother towards a newborn. In conclusion, life is the strangest story we will ever know. I'm not okay, but I'm trying. And lastly, I am sorry.
You are the beanstalk I climb. Your mind is the giant I wish to slay. Your voice is carried in the wind, and I pretend my pitch and tone skip across the gusts, skip across the breezes, skip across the zephyrs. Air is my element. I fan every one of your ignitions. We seek each other's levels, going upon this common ground. I am layered. You reach that which frost can't touch. Dig deeper, double down. Undeniably uncanny, magnetically magical. Tickling me pink leaves a memory which leaves me giggling. I wrap around your finger, leaving power in your hands, grabbing your arm by surprise. Be my passenger 57 and I will call you Heinz. Variety is a condiment and a spice. I relish your presence. You cut the mustard. We catch up while we are in pickles. I wish not to slay the giant on second thought. I wish to soothe it. We will rise together. We will fall together. We will join together. And even as we rise together, and even as we fall together, and even as we join together, all that breaks is a sweat. Asbury Park greets me within your thin-lipped, toothy smile. At the end of every labyrinth, you straddle the seashore's yen. You are a funhouse mirror, distorting my figure, yet always finding abundant embodiment within my gut. My navel yearns for that connection to amusement within these vibrant walls. Love was the product of jackpots won from slot machines, dispensing ducats, tokens tossed from one hand, arm pulled by the other hand. You were the windfall stashed within this chest of hazy nostalgia. Adulthood proves more haunting compared to the cart carrying me through those mysterious halls. Wishing I could be hypnotized just so I could catch a spoonful of what once satiated my satisfaction. When taste of the sacrament derived from riding a roller coaster before it became a cliche denoting a diagnosis before mania surged through my synapses like a Jimi Hendrix guitar solo. After bumper cars foreshadowed the accidents I'd face throughout these static frequencies of depression. If you were a Eucharist, I'd be an idolater. For you were the body of a god I tasted before knowing what it meant to be a righteous Jew. You were the excuse I needed to play hooky from Sunday school. You were the choir who greeted me before I possessed the voice to echo any calls I desperately needed to answer. You were the calming voice I needed before my own soothsaying emerged. Now the tongue with which I speak needs to taste the honey into which I dip my apple. Now this fruit stores nectar of passing years in a cloud, accessed via my digital thumbprint, repressed via my carbon footprint. Pollen is carried by a generation of workers and drones. If I left an intention on my doorstep, I'd wish for it to be carried by the westerly wind. I'd hope the corners of the crown in my castle mirror this palace of amusements. I'd pray the pleasantries could be contained by the channels from which we feel joy. May our data be easy to transmit, even if our devices are outdated. May said devices be reused as analog anecdotes. Let them be paperweights for the childhoods we cherish, preserving a trail back to the inner offspring struggling to spawn and survive. Sunrises on Saturday mornings before networks had 24-hour programming are vast memories. Sense of light and color from the test pattern. Darkness eradicated at the age of 4. Infomercials with Richard Simmons outline weight loss fallacies, crash diets, laxatives, vomiting, starve for a sense of belonging, excretion of identity, purging taboos of the psychic and psychotic. And then the colors of deal meal cards ease that need to nourish my spirit, quenching my thirst for love and wisdom. And in the morning I had no rooster to wake me, it was Tootie from the home shopping club who woke me. Gold and emeralds eased my chaos, adoration adorned and fever fueled. Perceptions of color often defined through ColecoVision, Atari, Commodore, low fidelity, higher contrast from reruns of I Love Lucy, The Twilight Zone, and The Honeymooners. And I crave boldness in those 8-bit rainbow skylines, stunning justice. 16 colors aren't enough. Impossible to fill in a 24-hour day with such restrictions. And I observe the sky through filters, none of which distort reality, but simply accentuate the vividness of heaven. And often I reminisce of 1985, the first time I had a numerical concept of a year. 4 years after my birth, 30 years prior to my father's passing. But these days, my eyes are hexadecimal algorithms Pantone has yet to develop, and my vision is HDMI. Pupils are my perspective, darkness, the onyx observation of loneliness and loss, my insatiable need to find a place within this infinite spectrum, my unfulfilled desire to belong. The wheel of fortune spins. Luck is pressed. Come on, big money, big money, big money, big bucks, big bucks. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop. Pink hearts, orange stars, yellow moons, green clovers, blue diamonds, purple horseshoes, red balloons. Pots of gold, rainbows, trees, blue moons, leprechaun hats, gold coins, shooting stars, crystal balls, hourglasses, keys. These are the talisman of morning magic, ambrosia of oats and marshmallows soaked in milk. But my lucky charms are my rods and cones. They allow me to admire these radiant symbols. All my photos evolve from mud, and this new set of colors is presently paradise, my heaven, my sky, my ether. Perhaps it demonstrates the incorporation of color destined to reach out. Perhaps it's friendlier than the earth upon which I stand. Perhaps I crave that which is limitless, for skies are not ceilings. The outside world is unconfined. My aura showcases skylines.